Hey guys, you feeling down? You feeling like you haven't had a conference in a while and you'd like to go to a conference,
I
maybe
do want to.
in the middle of the US in
Yeah,
a
right in the middle,
in a
in the
state that
Midwest.
has four letters in it?
Yeah, and terrible football program. Yeah,
Terrible football program. We're
yeah.
gonna not be allowed in the state, Dylan. Be careful.
I was
So I
joking. I
have
was
I have
joking.
an option. I have something that can help you both out if you're in the blues about not having a conference to go to.
Please tell me.
Scout InsurTech. Scout
Holy
InsurTech.
moly!
Go to their website, sign up today, and you get 10% off. Right, Dylan? Is that right?
10%
10%
off.
if
And
you
if
use
you
code age of the MGA. By the way,
2026. Whoa! The code is age of the MGA 2026. Okay.
2026.
All right.
We'll put it in the show
right.
notes as well.
The other thing that's really important here is that I'm not sure if they intended to do this or not. Those great guys at Scout, we'll probably have to ask Chris and then be yelled at. But if you act now before they fix the problem, you could also get their membership, which is more expensive. And our 10% still applies. I tried it the other day just to see if it would work, and it worked. Yeah. And
Sneaky.
I don't know if they know that. So,
well, they're going to find out.
Yeah, they're going to.
This is a good litmus test. It's a good litmus test if Chris watches this show.
Yeah, that's great. That's a great point. So I shouldn't bring it up because we were already bringing it up to him.
Yeah, but you know he doesn't watch, so we're fine. Everybody, you're fine using this. Nobody from Scout watches this, even though they're sponsoring this show today.
Wow,
they are
amazing. All right,
our first real sponsor, because Typhon, Turris, and Loro do not count. Those are not real companies.
No, they're real companies.
Just made them up.
Yeah. We did make them up. Actually, all of us did make them up.
Yeah, they're shell companies for our MGA.
This is very different from our usual introductions.
I know this is an ad. Just to be clear,
you sound like a professional podcast.
Do we have to note that this is an advertisement?
We'll ask our attorney later. What do you think?
True, we've got a good guest.
We have an attorney coming on the show, a real live attorney,
unlike Doug.
I am a real live attorney. Don't ever ask me for legal advice.
I don't
ever. I will tell you not to do the opposite of what I say. Would be my legal advice for you. Anyway, it's nice to have something different to talk about at the beginning of the show. I do have a full list of things to talk about today, though, because it's been a busy week. A lot of AI shenanigans have taken place.
Shenanigans.
Yeah. Did you see Block laid off like 4,000 people yesterday, and supposedly because of AI, not because of overhiring over the last 4 years or the fact that they had people sitting on their rooftop, not doing anything all day, drinking sodas from the canteen. No, it's AI. So trust me on this one. What other AI news do we have taking place this week? Peter, you got a bit spicy on LinkedIn lately, talking about the brokerage drawdown and how it's just as Americans like to say, fart in the wind. Is that an American saying, Dylan?
Sure, we'll go with it.
It means nothing. It means don't worry about it. And Peter, you drew a line in the sand this week on LinkedIn. Have you gotten any negative feedback from that? Anybody pushing back any of these people?
I don't think enough people see my posts to give me any negative feedback. I'm not I'm definitely not a top insurtech influencer, that's for sure.
and while that might be true about all three of us and also our actual show, I just learned I hadn't looked at our metrics for a good long time. And I saw last night, or actually this morning rather, that we had like 17,000, almost 18,000 impressions in the last period. And I'm just like, oh my God. I was like, oh my God, that's I think that means someone looked. So thank you, Mom, for looking 27 times an hour at our LinkedIn.
I don't believe it.
Yeah, I was impressed. I was impressed.
It's not bad.
I think
last week was our 20. Well, this is going to be our 27th episode today
that we're recording. Yeah,
that we're recording right now.
But 25 have been published, right?
25.
Which, by the way, guys, that's not that big of a deal. I don't want to. Is it?
Yeah.
I'm amazed we got one.
That's true. Actually, the fact that we kept it going.
Yeah. I can't believe we have been sued into non-existence is really.
It's
not
coming.
yet.
Yeah,
Well, like there's like a 6-year statute of limitations in most states. We got plenty of time to wait this out. And we can ask the lawyer we're bringing on the show. Guys, can we get it? He's waiting. This guy, his time is valuable.
Oh, are we being charged by the hour?
We are. Yeah. We will get a bill.
Yeah.
We will get a bill. But his time is worth it. This is what I'll say. This is one of the most thoughtful, kind, brilliant lawyers. Yes, lawyers in the world, in the insurtech space for certain. In the insurance space, definitely. Listen, he's not just a lawyer, though. No. He's an avid football fan. Okay. Real football, soccer, Dylan, for people
I know what you're talking about
in Virginia. So we're going to talk a bit about the World Cup for sure, coming to the U.S., North America soon. He's a foodie. He lives in Williamsburg. He has to be a foodie. If he's not, they'd kick him out of the city, kick him out of that part of Brooklyn for sure.
Can we call him a hipster? Is that a thing anymore?
He's got some hipster vibes, but the good hipsters, not the bad ones, the good ones. The ones that make you say, I'd like to hang out with that guy. How can I get more of his time, even if I do have to be billed for it?
I can't imagine what he's doing backstage listening to all this. This will be
He left. He actually left. He's like, I got more important things to do than listen to these idiots. So what do we do? Before he does leave, let's bring him on. Guys, it's our favorite attorney other than me, Greg Hoffnagle. Woo! Greg, what's up, man?
Welcome.
That's quite a conversation and intro there. Had I known, I wouldn't have shaved my handlebar mustache to keep my hipster vibes.
Yeah.
Doug, as you know, I'm a Tottenham fan in the Premier League, so I don't want to talk football at all, maybe ever again.
A bit rough,
but I'm looking forward to the World Cup and chatting with you, gents.
Very good. Tottenham in the Premier League for now. Maybe not next year.
Yeah. Well, the only upside is we'd like to go to games. It'll be much cheaper to go to if anybody's still going. But there's going to be a significant crash out in the Hoffnagle household if we go down.
We had a good friend of ours who I think you've met, Alex Bond, on, who's a big Arsenal fan. It sounds like we need to get you two in the same room together and see what happens.
You know, it's one of those things. I can be in the same room with Arsenal fans because they don't give a flip about us any longer, and we're so far from relevancy. Like, they don't even bother me any longer. Like, that's where we're at this point.
Oh man! All right, actually, bucket list item. I want to get you and Alex to a Hotspurs Arsenal match in the near future. I'll sit in between you two, and I'll get one of those cool scarves that have the teams on both sides. That way I can.
Give me 1 second. Like, since you mentioned it, I'm coming back.
This is the first time I guess that's actually left during the show.
I'll hold off my thoughts. I'll hold off my thoughts on those scarves.
This was a gift that you got me.
Yeah.
It is still in my office.
Oh my God, that's great. Yes.
We'll have to break it out for World Cup. Thank you very much. My kids still love it, but you know who keeps it. It's in my office here.
My question was going to be, who are you supporting for the World Cup, and why is it the Netherlands? So.
So it's funny. My wife is an Irish citizen. My sons have Irish citizenship. And so if they can actually sneak in, I actually think the Hoffnagle household will be rooting for Ireland first and then US next. That may be to the chagrin of a lot of people that are listening to it, but they still need to get there first.
Well, just Dylan's listeners. The Peter's fine and nobody listens for me. So you're good, Greg. Well, listen, man, let's chat a little bit insurtech. I had the pleasure of catching up with you earlier this morning, so I prepped you a bit on this show, but maybe talk a bit about your practice area. Actually, before we do that, I'll give a bit of an intro to the extent I already haven't. So I came across Greg. I did when I was trying to build an MGA way back when. I was like, I need a lawyer to help me out with some things. And like, you guys had you and who was your old partner? Heather?
Heidi Lawson.
Heidi, yeah. Had just moved over to, I don't remember. We don't want to give them. We'll talk about your current firm. But saw an article on you guys, and I reached out thinking like, this guy's not going to give me the time of day. And you wrote back like 5 minutes later. You're like, come to our office. brought my co-founder in. You guys gave us a couple hours of your time, chatted through some options, started helping us think about capacity. We walked away with like, wow, this guy, he's great. And I remember, then I'll let you intro. I remember like a month or two later, we started working with you, and we were on vacation with our family, and we were like, got off the plane, and I saw an email from you, and I was like, all of you need to shut the hell up right now. I have to respond to this guy, and he's working for us for very little right now, and this needs to look professional. So I need all of my bandwidth. And if I mess this message up, he's going to think that we're frauds. He's not going to work with us. I think every time I think of you, I think of me writing that email and telling my family to just shut the hell up, and how important it was to get this email out. Now, knowing you after the fact, like that's,
and then you realize like it wouldn't make a difference. He's going to flub something up anyway. Yeah. Doug, I think we've known each other for 10 years.
It's close.
I think it's almost that. We're pushing close. And I always screw up when I say, well, how long I've been in the insurtech space. I'd always be like, oh, it's been 3 years. It's been 4 years. I realize that this has been around a lot longer. But yeah, I do remember those. And frankly, that's still a lot of my practice. I've been practicing for 20 years, always in the insurance space, good, bad, or ugly, and kind of touched the gamut. Started out on kind of the claims coverage dispute size. That's where I feel like I've learned kind of like the blocking and tackling. Started doing regulatory, which I kind of do the middle part, is like the key part of my practice now. And then now I sit in the corporate group, funny enough, here at Holland Knight, because over the last couple of years, both with insurtechs and other, innovators in the space, I've spent a lot of time working for like private equity and VCs in their, investments, acquisitions, roll-ups, et cetera, of the players that we're probably going to talk about today. And so I feel like I have somewhat of a unique perspective, and I don't mean that in a special way, of I've had the good fortune of working like with a lot of players in the ecosystem. But my other unique aspect is I've never worked for an MGA. I don't think I've ever stepped in an MGA's office. I've never had to do the day-to-day work that they need to do. And so I feel like I bring a lot of knowledge in some ways and no knowledge whatsoever in others, just because I'm an attorney that just has had the good fortune of working with people like you.
Well, don't worry. Doug knew nothing about MGAs either when he started.
I didn't know. I still don't know what MGA stands for. So I remember having that conversation the first time. By the way, I will say, I just did a presentation yesterday with some folks at the Securities Insurance Licensing Association, lovely organization, where we talked about the real definition of an MGA, because a lot of people throw that term around and it's not correct, right? It's this statutory definition, just in case anybody's wanting to go to sleep. And I can go through that. But Dylan, just a little FYI for you there.
Please, no, tell me.
No, it's 5% of the gross written premium of a carrier code.
I would be remiss. So first of all, Peter, it's nice meeting you. So I wanted to say that.
Good to meet you, Greg.
And I've actually known Dylan. I don't want Dylan, you to feel like a second-class citizen here to Doug. You and I've known each other for a while as well. And so it's good to see you too.
I have heard you whistle and command 18,000 men in Madison Square Garden, and after that, I was just like, Greg is the man. It turns out. If anyone's been to a Rangers game, they've probably heard Greg
whistle chant at a Ranger game, but that's a whole nother story.
It is. We'll do that on an after hours podcast. That sounds great.
Yeah. So Greg, I think it's interesting because obviously we mostly have MGAs on. Every once in a while, we'll have somebody within the ecosystem that we think is valuable to talk about what they're working on. And I think oftentimes at the very beginning of building an MGA, you're thinking about capacity, you're thinking about distribution, and those are obviously very important things to think about. But we operate in a very highly regulated space, right? There's rules you need to follow, and these rules are opaque, and they are ever changing and probably not written down correctly. And God love them. I want to be very nice to the regulators out there, but they're short-staffed and they're busy. And so I look at people like what you're doing, right, and helping to kind of like navigate that morass and say like, this is good, this is bad, this is what you can do, but from the earliest days. So I look like, how do you think about working from an MGA from day one? I want to talk about the bigger success stories as well, and how you work when they scale up. But like, hey, I'm starting an MGA today. What should I be thinking about? What should I go talk to Greg about?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. I guess it's, and you and I were talking about this a little bit earlier today. It's trying to figure out where you're coming from, right? I've worked with MGAs that, I've been in the insurance business for 30 years, a family-owned business. I know this like the back of my hand. I think I can add value to a lesser extent of just the execution documents, the documents with carriers, et cetera. They kind of know how to run the business. They've had their licenses for years. They've figured out how to keep them, stay compliant, et cetera. And so for that, it becomes more transactional, just typical legal work. But when I get the startups, the innovators, the people that haven't been in this space before, it becomes more business advisory, teaching them how to speak the language, teaching them to understand who the players are, teaching them to say, no, as clever as they think they are, there is a rhythm of how this business works, both kind of by the letter of the law and just by expectation of, capacity providers, how you deal with TPAs, how you deal with regulators. And so it really depends on how my clients find me, like what their experience has been before. But I often find, and we can talk a little bit this as what I say, the innovators that have come into the space are starting to mature. There's still a lot for everybody to learn, like I was explaining earlier, and there is no exact science. And you and I were talking about the idiosyncrasies of appointments or, fees, et cetera. There's laws, and then there's opaque laws, and then there's just the way the market works. And sometimes, some states, appointments are the be all and end all. And if you run afoul of those, you have a problem. And in other states, it just doesn't seem like they care, frankly. And so how do you navigate that? And a lot of it goes down to understanding what my clients know and don't know, and then understanding their risk profile. And I look at their risk profile of like, do they want to raise money? Do they want to, eventually sell this? What is a private equity going to think about this when they come in and kick the tires on it? What is a regulator going to, think about this when, they do a market conduct exam with the carrier and they're now becoming more involving the MGAs? They're not just looking at the documents that are in place, but especially if you're using AI, and we could talk about that. I don't think we'd make it through this conversation without AI. If you're an MGA using AI, your regulatory compliance is basically the same exact as your carrier partner. If the regulator goes into that carrier and they're saying, we delegated this, and they have an algorithm there and they're using it, they're basically skipping straight through the carrier and coming to you. And I think that is like something that I try to help my clients understand and starting to help them navigate. Because I think the world is changing, and it's not my idea. AI is definitely causing a lot of disruption on the insurance regulatory front. In all the other fronts, it's disrupting.
Sure. So Greg, I am that typical underwriter. I'm playing a part here. I'm a typical underwriter. I have mastered my craft in, let's call it cyber insurance. I understand it completely. I've listened to the Age of the MGA podcast. I'm really smart now because I listened to all 25 published episodes, or now 27. Yeah, I know, Doug. It's a stretch. I'm playing a part here, okay? So I come to you and I say, I have no idea where to begin. What's our first list of items that we need to get done? Because this is the most common question I get. I hear this constantly. Haven't formed an entity. I have one partner, and we're talking about how do we get this thing off the ground.
Yeah, sure. Well, it's funny you alluded to it. It's like, we say MGAs. I don't have the heart to tell. A lot of my clients come to me and be like, I want to spin up an MGA. And I'm like, you may eventually become an MGA, but what you're not going to be is an MGA tomorrow or the day after, for reasons I think Doug was alluding to. I think it's somewhat simple in the sense that, all right, you need to spin up some sort of LLC. There's nothing really magical about that. You have to form some sort of corporation. So, that's easy and very low hanging fruit for a law firm. You need to have someone get a license. You need someone to become the DLRP. And, you know, we can kind of explain how you go doing that. I think I said this and Doug was alluding to it before. It's not something you really want to rely on a law firm for, but there's a number of vendors that can show you and help you fill out the form. And so getting the license is the most important. Having a corporation is like the next. And one of the key aspects, but I think this is more of an art than a science, is striking that right balance as you're getting your, you know, putting on your big boy pants, if you will, or your adult pants to be able to do this, is starting to socialize yourself with the capacity providers that you're going to eventually need. If you don't have any of this, I wouldn't go speak to big insurance carrier, but you don't want to get it all set up and then go starting. So that balance, I find, is the trickiest part of when are you mature enough? When are you serious enough? When do you have the corporation, the licenses in place? When do you have an advisor or two and, you know, hopefully good legal counsel, where then now you can start more of your roadshow, if you will. And one is on the capacity side, and then depending where you are on the investor side. But this market is now pretty sophisticated. And if you were an investor wearing my VC legal hat, and you came and says, we are the next greatest thing since sliced bread in the flood insurance MGA space, you know, are you guys interested in talking to us? We don't have a license. We have no prospects with carrier providers. They would say, call me when you do. And on the complete other side of it, the same with the carrier. And so there are some elements. I don't think it's that hard to spin up the corporation, get the license, but just getting that, you know, sequential traction of how you don't spin your wheels for 2 years is the tricky part. And I think that's where I try to advise. And I'm a big fan of not always relying on spending money on legal counsel, but particularly if you don't know this space, you need to find somebody that does, and they need to be an advisor early on, or you're going to make a lot of mistakes and waste a lot of time.
So Greg, you bring up some great points. And I think there's two different types of early stage MGA, right? There are those that are maybe coming out of an insurance organization, right? A book roll, or they have distribution kind of figured out. And then there's like more of and there could still be a tech angle there. Like it's not to say that's not an insurtech. But those are different conversations you'd have with capacity versus like somebody purely from a technology perspective that maybe doesn't have any experience in the insurance space. Very interesting technology or data source that I think could be applied to an insurance problem, but no distribution, right? It's really like a different pitch that's going on. I think what I loved about working with you early on was you sat down and tried to understand like what we had and didn't have, and said like, this is who you should go talk to, both from that advisor perspective. Like, I think this person can help fill a gap for you, but also from a capacity perspective. Like, I know these people write these types of programs. Like, why don't we do some initial discussions with them? Not a full-on pitch, right? We don't have a reinsurance broker involved yet. Just like, here's an hour of their time for them to poke holes in what you're working on. I think like you made a number of intros for us there that were super helpful, kind of like navigating how the evolution of that pitch should work and how we should actually start approaching capacity.
Yeah, and I think it's a big part of it. I think you all are in the space, and I don't want to focus too much on the insurtech part, but we are talking a little bit of that, and like the new players in the space is they really don't know what they don't know. But there was this mentality, and you guys, I would see you at InsurTech Connect or the other ones, that when it first came in, it's like, oh, we're disruptors. You know, it almost implicitly, these people don't know what they're doing. We can do it better. I feel like that is totally gone. I feel like when we go to these events now, everybody's realized that they have a role in the ecosystem, and you're not all of a sudden going to just take these, major carriers and usurp them and vice versa. But there was this kind of reluctance to, in some ways, to go out to speak to people because somehow you were going to give away your secret sauce, or they were going to take, you're a great idea. And I found those ones didn't succeed. They were going to go it on their own, and now they're doing something else. And so, yeah, I'm a big proponent, whether you're an innovator or not, there's always somebody else out there that's been there. There's always somebody out there that can give you perspective. Sometimes it's not a good perspective, but you kind of then can take a step back and weigh it all in the end. But I am a big proponent of, when I work with clients, of understanding what they know and don't know, and then trying to find them people. I've definitely reached out to Dylan in the past when we got more into kind of the actuarial side, and I could tell my clients had no idea what they were talking about. And I'm like, let me call Dylan, see if he knows somebody or if he would be interested. And he actually referred me something in the rideshare space not that long ago, and it worked out. And so I think having a network of people is one of the things that I try to keep. But I think if you're going to operate in this space, traditional, innovative, technology forward, you need to know the players.
Yeah. Greg, I have a few questions really covering a lot of the ground you spoke about at the start of this call. But so a frustration and a paradox I see in the MGA world is the whole point, we can argue the point of an MGA, but a lot of it is to test and try and launch new things into a market, right? But there's also the situation where to do that, it can sometimes take 18 months, 24 months to get everything aligned, legal setup, licensing, capacity, legal wordings, etc., etc. In your mind, is there anything our MGA should be doing to accelerate this process? And what's the best case scenario? And I appreciate there's many different rules on state, there's many different rules on if you're admitted or non-admitted and all these rules, but really what would you say are kind of top tips you have for people to accelerate that time to market?
Yeah, one would be, but I know this is not practical and it'd probably be to the chagrin of many of my clients, is don't start from scratch. Acquire a business, do a book roll, like have some of the, the foundational elements there, because naturally that just puts you farther along. But assuming you are starting from scratch is, again, it's getting people in. Don't figure it out yourself. Bring people in that know it, right? There's always going to be new stuff and innovative stuff, but like you have to not be shy of leaning on people. And so that's why I think, again, not going back to what I was saying, but really to kind of speed to market is acquire somebody that has something you like and you just think you can do it better. And I see that all the time in like the mid-market private equity, roll up. They're like, there's all these, family-owned mom and pop operations in Central Florida. And they're like, they have the customers, although they want to upsell them and sell them different lines, et cetera. And they have, the carrier relationships. Okay, so, no customer acquisition, no, finding new carrier partners, but they just have, a better technology, right? And so I feel like you have to kind of, for lack of a better term, try to find some hacks. But if not, if you're just going to do it from scratch, start it alone, I have found at least, to give you one example of producers, if you will, say producers on steroids, because I alluded to earlier, they're not MGAs, right? But I think their aspirations, or they hold themselves out as MGAs, or certainly in their pitch deck to VCs, they're calling themselves MGAs, is alternative sources of capital. And I'll say what I mean by that has been speed to market. So for example, we'll use the flood, and this isn't really a real scenario. There's a lot of anecdotal, and you probably know MGAs out there that operate in similar spaces, that we are going to try to tackle Florida flooding. And, you start out and you're like, oh, I'm going to just start, talking to a bunch of carriers, and a bunch of carriers like, we ran away from that stuff, years ago, or we're trying to run away from that stuff. And so one of the ways I've seen clients get there faster is pitch it to private equity. And private equity is like, this is interesting. We don't really want to be a capacity provider, but we wouldn't mind getting an early investment in your company if they really believe in the concept of the technology. And so we'll take favorable terms on the investing side. We will act as the reinsurer. We'll find, or you'll find a fronting carrier. And that's always going to be a temporary operation, Peter. That's never going to be, and then we'll operate like this for the next 20 years. But that is that little 2-year stopgap where eventually the private equity peels off and are no longer taking a quota share of the risk. And apologies, I think all your listeners, you guys know all this, so if we're getting granular on it, but
no.
That model there has worked pretty nicely, I've seen in the last couple of years, for people that really were very smart people taking on a very large problem, using technology and their other capabilities to really, to solve something or try to solve something. And I think it's TBD if they do. but doing it, I would say, faster than you could have imagined, or, that if they just went the traditional route, which we alluded to earlier, I'm going to go do a road show to a bunch of carriers, see if I can put a traditional reinsurance panel together. I mean, that's ultimately their goal. Traditional reinsurers will eventually come in. But I think that's been one of the playbooks I've seen the last 3 to 5 years of people that just want to expedite it faster, just kind of bringing alternative players into the mix.
Yeah.
What kind of product lines? Oh, sorry, Peter. What kind of product lines are you? I was going to, Peter. No politeness on this show. What product lines are you seeing like that's successful in, or is it more like admitted versus non-admitted? I mean, you don't have to share the company names, but I'm just like curious if there's a type of insurance vertical that makes more sense for that private equity route to start with.
Niche, tough risks, big risk, big reward type one. So it wasn't a coincidence that I mentioned floods or fires, etc. It's rarely, never like mundane. I don't mean anything of mundane about it, just like general homeowners insurance or car, although it can be. I feel like though there is capacity out there, and it's not hard for carriers either to wrap their mind around that risk, or they are already handling it and you're just giving them a different salvo into that space or a different market in that space. So it's usually, I have found, somewhat of the harder risks, some of the more ambitious innovators or thinkers, and just being like, they've already decided like, well, we could be successful here if we can find the right people, because it's seemingly nobody else wants to touch it. But that's been the recent trend. I don't know if, and that may be just my experience of where I'm seeing it, but I know just having private equity clients, in some ways, they want to make money, right? But they're also not getting in this to compete with the big carriers for stuff that they're already doing. For it to be attractive to them, they have to think like, oh, if we get this right, we're going to have, or our client's going to have significant market share in this. And so there's a couple of elements, and I'm not a PE guy, I'm not an investor. I just have spent a lot of time with them of how they think about it. The ones that they usually bring to us just for a simple, like, is this compliant? Can this be E&S? Does this sound right to you? They're usually some of the larger, more complicated risks. And I don't think it's a coincidence. I think the way it happened is that, frankly, is these people I'm working with did go to, large insurance carrier, and they're like, no, they didn't want to give up the dream, and like, where else can we go? And then they're like, well, I can get you a meeting with this fund, or I can get you a meeting with this family office. There's definitely a lot of people, like, I think I've jokingly said this before. I don't know to any of you guys, practiced for 20 years. I don't think the word, now again, I always get confused with the timing a little bit. So I used to say for the first 15 years, but maybe it's a little bit different, that the word insurance and private equity ever came up in the same sentence for me. And now it comes up a lot. And the market's changed a little bit. I don't think it's as hot right now, because I think just for, for different reasons, but like several years ago, almost everything I was touching in the insurance space, MGA space, had some sort of private equity touch to it.
Yeah. I think in the broker space as well, private equity is just gone incredibly.
And one thing I alluded to earlier, not to just continue with the conversation, is nothing is too big or too small, right? Like I laugh. I sometimes have like clients that are like, oh, they spent their first 10 years at like Boston Consulting Group or Bain, and now they're rolling up like mom and pop, like producers in Central Florida. And they're like, oh, I just literally drive around the state because I feel like there's value here. And like, not saying that I didn't expect someone from Bain to then be doing that, but that really just kind of shows you where people, when they really wrap their minds into this space, there's a lot of value, both big and small.
But I think what you talk about there as well, it creates such an opportunity for these smaller guys, because we know there's a level of acquisition appetite out there for these types of businesses. So I think we said a lot on the show, but if you've got this idea, particularly niche ideas in a particular very segmented, very targeted area that you want to go out and prove, and you do know enough about the insurance space, and you get good advice, like people like Greg, you can set up these things and look realistically at relatively, for insurance, short-term exit paths because of this appetite for people to come in and acquire these groups. So I get what you're saying about if you're at one end, start with that level, but for the smaller entities starting off something from scratch, it also represents huge opportunity.
Yeah, the one thing I'll mention, and again, it gets probably too legal, but I'll float it out there because it's a concept that comes up a lot, somewhat surprising to me, but I'm an attorney, so like this is what we think about with our clients. We have a lot of, here at Holland Knight, we have a lot of like mid-market private equity. And so some of the roll-ups that I was talking about weren't just like hypotheticals. They were like alluding to like real clients and customers. But the idea, so you have someone come in, again, we'll use the Bain example. She's very smart. She's run the numbers, have done the math. She's figured out her targets. And now she's going to start acquiring them. And, then we get into, well, is it going to be an equity purchase or an asset purchase? And when you're in a highly regulated area that comes with licenses and carrier appointments and stuff, it can become very complicated to do it on the asset side. You just can't go in like, oh, I'm going to buy the relationships and I'm going to buy the licenses. It doesn't work that way, right? And then so they kind of do it that way. And then they're like, well, I guess we can figure out how to do it equity, but we really don't want to do equity. And so I've seen a lot of pressure points in the smaller roll-up space of like, how do you acquire them? And does it all roll up to one license entity, or are they going to keep their separate license entities? And it's not rocket science, but it can be a lot of mind, time, energy thinking through it. And it's hard to get it just right. And frankly, the regs on states makes it almost difficult or very difficult to even get it seamless. To transfer it over and closing dates. Now we're getting more into like real like M&A stuff. I'm not an M&A attorney, but I spend a lot of time with them. But they can almost make acquiring something at a very good price more expensive to figure it out than it's actually worth in the short term.
Don't feel bad about getting into nuts and bolts. Dylan usually spends 10 minutes talking about claims when people go to the bathroom during the show or do other things. So you're fine, Greg. I do want to say, I've heard this rumor. Is it true that you get like a 2 or 3 points on your multiple higher if you use Turris for making sure all of your licensing and compliance is correct?
Yeah, I've heard that rumor.
I thought I've heard that before. Yeah. This dovetails in 2 different ways right now, how this conversation is going. One, we're going to talk about, then we're going to do a new clip, new little section, a complete ripoff of Caleb Presley's show, if anybody watches that. So you'll, Greg, as a hipster, I hope you are watching that. If not, your kids probably
I'm the oldest guy that lives in Williamsburg at this point. And so if you say hipster and my kids heard it, they would be on the floor crying, laughing at this point.
Oh man, if your kids listen to this, we have to have a conversation with them about getting a better life. But then I do want to talk about some AI stuff as well. So maybe Peter, you alluded to not having to have much behind you to launch an MGA. We've been floating, potentially building live on the show an MGA in a little niche product. We're not going to go into much more detail than that, but to kind of prove out like you can do this, not part-time, but without a lot of capital, with maybe leaning on some connections, but putting a little product together and really showing that it can like push into a niche space. And we'll give Kyle Gagan props for this. Like his success with Event Guard makes us think that we can all do this as a little side project. So we'll see if we fail or not, Greg. But we'll look for your retainer soon here when you want to start bringing us on. All right. So now we're going to do a quick. We're going to do a little segment brought to you by Scout InsurTech. It's a little rapid attorney quickfire questions. Red flags, yes or no, just quick answer. Okay, I'm going to pay commission to my customers to get them to buy my policy. Good idea or bad idea?
Currently a terrible idea. But, it seems like the tides are changing, although they've been changing for the last several years. You have me on as guests like 325. we may be in a spot where I would say it's now not a bad idea, or it's at least an acceptable idea in a bunch of states. But currently, unless you're in California, and that's way too nuanced to get into, that is a bad idea if you want to be around for a decent amount of time.
Got it. Okay. All right. Next quick fire question. I want to sell an insurance product, but I'm not going to mess around with these regulators. They're slow, they're boring, they're old. Don't want to deal with them. I've got a cool tech product. I call it insurance. I'd like to sell this in, I don't know, Illinois. Good to go or not?
No, not good to go. But, and I know this is supposed to be a yes or no thing, have I had clients, none of which I think I mentioned here, that have set up test balloons and have knowingly done it impermissibly? Probably wouldn't recommend Illinois, but take some other state and say, do it for 3 or 6 months, see if you get traction, and then go spend money and we can tact you to get it right. Yes, people definitely do that. But your long-term plan is, if you want to succeed in scale, it's like, we're just going to flagrantly do it impermissibly. And that's the way, that's our business model. Not a good idea.
But can I point out that my joke section here is actually turned into real valuable content? Like, I can't help myself. It just comes out.
And
I just can't believe you're prepared.
I'm making this up on the fly. I did like 10 milligrams of creatine this morning, so I'm feeling.
Nice.
Really
you guys love
right
your
now.
creatine. Greg, we end up talking about creatine, weather, and various other things on every single podcast, so it has to be mentioned.
We haven't talked about creatine in a while. It's either creatine or 2% loss ratio. So pick your battles here, Peter.
Let's go creatine.
Okay,
Peter, creatine.
Last quick fire question, and it will lead into our unfortunately AI segment of the show. Okay, I got a black box AI model that underwrites. I'm going to deploy this bad boy across the U.S. How are we feeling about that?
I'm not feeling good about it. Yeah, I don't think there's much to say. And I think it does segue into AI. If you're doing AI, it can't be black box. I mean, that's just where the regulators are at. They haven't been very clear of what you need to have and be able to show. But that, I think, is going to be, not to be too dramatic, dead on arrival.
Yeah.
Can you explain sorry, Doug, can you explain what
go.
black box means? Like, what does that constitute?
Me?
Yeah. Or
Greg.
Greg.
I know I have to do work. So just the concept of, so data goes in and a result comes out. We don't know how we came up with the result. So it could be as simple as like, I'm taking these metrics on someone and producing a price on them. What factors went into it? In a typical underwriting model, you would know exactly. Like, you could go to a regulator and point to exactly how you derived that price. With black box model, it's like, we're not quite sure. So there might be some bias baked in, but don't worry about that part. Like, look how quickly we did this, and it's to the benefit of the consumer. And regulators so far have said, no, it's not. We're not comfortable with this. But there's super interesting conversations going on across the NAIC right now. I think there's been some model legislation potentially floated, which I don't think a lot of companies are very favorable on right now. From what I've heard, I haven't read the model legislation, but I don't think it's been well received to date.
Peter.
Okay. So basically, evidencing how you got to the price is crucial, right? You can't just
being able to prove that you're not redlining and such.
And that's not new for AI, right? I mean, even there was this kind of like triaging where you were just trying to collect data points, and I don't think there was anything that smart about it. But then they would then kind of find all this information about you, and then say, well, when you calculate all this, people that do this tend to don't do that. And true story, 10 years ago, working on a project for a very large life insurance company, they were having a program of just when you're kind of filling out life insurance applications to stress test when they ask you are you a smoker or not, of whether you're lying or not. And they were collecting because then they don't want to send everybody out to medical. So like, if they ask me, I'm a smoker, I'm not, I say no, I passed the test, they don't make me take an extra medical and I go through. If they dinged you, then you would go and have to take a medical test. But when we asked them, they were concerned about disparate impact and redlining, as I think Dylan said, like all of these different things that may be biased or unfair. We asked them for their data points. Like, what are you asking these people, like, to determine whether or not they're telling truth or smoking? and this is true, how the vicinity, and I'm not making this up, how close they live to the closest Starbucks was a data point. Don't know how it got weighted. It may have had like less than 1% in the algorithm, or how they were adding this up was in there. And I was like, what does this have to do with the price of tea in China? And nobody could tell me. And I'm like, you got to get rid of the Starbucks thing. If a regulator sees this, he's going to hate it.
Yeah.
And so that's like an exaggerated version.
Also,
Yeah.
if you live in a urban area, everyone is within a few.
I was going to say there's so many Starbucks everywhere. Yeah.
Well, right. And so that's the, the black box to your point. It's those weird data points, but then it's also, and they'll know this too, it's like the weighting, as I alluded to, is also a big part. You can use 5 data points, but if you're like using really only one, and that's like 99% of the decision, the 4. And so I think what, getting to the AI now, and this is what I was alluding to earlier, that if you're an MGA, a producer, or even a SaaS provider, let's say you're just a technology company that provides AI to people in this ecosystem, but you don't handle any regulated activity, they just use your AI. Well, if that AI gets something wrong, or a regulator thinks that it is being biased, or it's a black box, you as that SaaS provider that don't think you have any sort of regulatory overlay, now will have the CDI in California or the DFS in New York and say, no, we're auditing your books because we need to know, as they say, like how the sausage is made.
Yeah. In the UK, we have, I'm not too au fait with US rules and regulations, but in the UK, they have things like treating customers fairly, right? Which states a lot of this kind of stuff. You've got to evidence
that's like one of, there's always a catch-all like kind of statute in everyone that's just basically consumer protection, and it's broad. And if they want to use that and say, we think our customers may be being treated unfairly by your technology or your partnership with large carrier, we're going to go in and, like, whether they have jurisdiction over it or not, it's kind of hard to fight regulators if they decide they want you to provide them answers.
Yeah. So yeah, on the AI conversation, I think it's interesting because we were talking earlier, right, just about how it's applying to the law space. It's obviously, the talk of the town in a lot of different sectors of the economy. I think with insurance in particular, there's been a market drop in the brokerage space because of some news that really had nothing to do with large commercial brokers, but I think was trying to be extended, I guess, out to the business models for these companies. I think at the end of the day, it's like, can you continue to provide the service that you're providing? And like Greg, like, you guys are using AI internally at your firm. You're trying to do more with less, but it's still like that relationship, that trusted advisor aspect. And I do think in the insurance space, like that's not going to go away. Like, people do not want to deal with these things on their own. They're like, I'm going to get rid of CRC here, so I'm going to go and shop this very complex coverage out. Or even like a risk manager is not going to be up for doing that, because then they're going to lose their steak dinners. Like this, it's just not going to happen, I think, in the way that a lot of people are portraying it to happen. But curious on your thoughts on that, kind of like what you're seeing.
Totally agree. I mean, if you know the traditional, and I spent a lot of time with them, the traditional broker space, it's all relationships. The most successful brokers that I've come across are just have very good relationship with their clients. Anecdotally, I think this would apply in the kind of the MGA space, but I did say my unique experience is I've never worked for an MGA, and you'd be like, Greg, you don't know what you're talking about, but this is just kind of translating over. The one thing we've noticed here at Holland Knight, I don't think this is really different than any of like other big firms, is the AI is a very helpful tool to people that have been practicing and have a significant amount of experience in the space. So do you know who uses the AI the least here? Is our junior associates. Because, and I don't know, I didn't poll them, but I just don't think they know enough, and I don't mean this in any sort of negative way, or trust themselves enough to, if they fired something into Harvey or Copilot or Claude and it came back with a definitive answer, they'd be like, I think this is right. No, I'm going to do more research with it. Where at this point, I put stuff into Harvey and I'm like, this is pretty good, but that comes from 20 years of experience of like knowing that doesn't sound right, this sounds right. And so I think that applies in your space as well. Like, are things going to get automated? Are things going to happen faster? Sure. But I think they're going to still need to be used by or controlled by or supervised by people that know the insurance space, people that know the risks of their clients, people that know how this works. And I think the idea of just like, oh, we're just going to set it and forget it, and AI is smarter than this, I don't see that coming in your space, and I don't see it coming in ours.
So I think about this all the time, that because I was a junior attorney, right? And those like difficult, gnarly research sessions are getting yelled at by a partner, like jokingly, but
I was the one that got yelled at. I don't yell at associates. That's not me raising my hand for that.
That builds skills and builds knowledge base, like that whole experience. I think whether it's as an attorney or like early on in an insurance career, I mean, I think like great if you can replace a lot of the minutia, like the ops of these organizations. That's also kind of like, especially in insurance, where you learn a lot of things, like how does this work? Why does it work this way? And so I think about 10, 15, 20 years from now, the people that are not getting that experience potentially, what does that look like? Can they actually turn into a Greg and have the experience? Or are we just kind of like making ourselves extremely dumb? One of my favorite movies of all time, I'm forgetting the name now, but it's the guy goes, he gets frozen and he goes to like 1,000 years into the future.
Idiocracy.
Idiocracy, yes.
Such a good film.
Such a great film, but it's a great Mike Judge film. Silicon Valley, all my favorite like satire stuff. But I see that happening now, and I'm like, don't know if we really want this, and what does this turn into?
Yeah, and we struggle with that on our side too, right? I mean, so AI's here, we're going to use it. I talked about the supervisory, and one other point, and then I'll get to the point I was about to make is, AI I find to be, and I'm not an AI expert, but I use it in my day-to-day practice. It's as good as your prompts are. And so like when you're actually like talking to it, I start it with, I don't want you to talk about this. I know California allows that, but that's not where I'm going for. And so you really like using it as a tool. Back to, I just don't feel like, unfortunately for them, the junior associates know enough to be able to do that, right? To maximize that. But to your point, Doug, and we've not figured that out. I don't want to speak on behalf of Holland Knight, but I don't think the law industry has figured that out, is, well, like, how is this impacting the people that had to learn by just climbing down rabbit holes? Like, that's how I learned, like, just like struggling and researching and then being like, okay, there's no law out there, and then not getting sleep that night and coming back the next morning and be like, I'm not so sure there isn't that law out there, and I don't want to go into the partner. We don't really work like that any longer, both in like, that's just not how we run our businesses. And so how do they learn and become someone besides me, but like a senior attorney at a firm? Or in the insurance industry, if it starts doing it that way too, how do you become like that, that real sophisticated broker or, sophisticated manager of an MGA? I don't know, because I do feel like of all the benefits we're getting with AI, there is just something about learning it slow and hard.
Yeah, I think you explained it. You explained it so well. Yeah.
Yeah. But as a first year associate, it's the dream.
Yeah, go on, Doug.
Right. It was maybe. Sorry,
maybe
and I think this is the.
So this show's all about Doug, huh? Right? It's Doug's world, and we're all just in it.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I'm very used. I'm very used to that, Greg. Very used to that.
Yeah. I think it's my internet, but my internet knows when I'm not getting enough airtime, so it does like shut everybody else down.
You do look a little fuzzy.
You have got a little pixelated here. Yeah.
He looks better pixelated, to be fair.
Yeah. You know what? I'm gonna let this one go. I'm gonna let Peter step on in. Come on in. Water's warm.
I've been desperate to get involved in this one, Doug, because as you alluded to, I bit this news story and put a post about it. But I think you express it so well, Greg, and I agree fundamentally that AI is so useful if you know to some degree what you're putting into it, exactly as you said. And in the broking example, the issue I have with that replacing brokers is customers do not know what to ask for. So if you don't know the type of coverage or the depth of detail about the type of products that you should be buying for your particular business, how on earth is AI going to lead you to the outcome that you should be purchasing today? Now that may change, of course, these things evolve fast, but And the other big point, which I want to bring Dylan in on, is the claims side of that. A broker is there to guide you through the claims process as well, not just the buying process. So I think it's seriously overestimated what effect that will have on the broking community today.
No, Peter, I totally agree. And I think that's really where so you're right. My clients are here to sell a product and insurance, but ultimately what is insurance for? It's for that rainy day. It's for sometimes, unfortunately, that catastrophic event. And, when that comes in, that's super jarring to the policyholder that had this happen to them. And now they have had a policy that was issued through AI. Nobody knows anything about the account. Nobody knows anything about the risk. Nobody knows this person. And they're now like, oh, help me figure out if I have coverage, help me speak to large carrier, help me like what I need to tell my board if we're talking about larger policies. I feel like that really was like that unit element is always going to be there, just because there is more of a counselor and advisor and therapist role that even comes with it sometimes when people are really going through a bad thing, and just having them like punch something into a chat bot and getting kind of like over formalized responses back is, I think, could be disastrous, frankly. If the particular situation came up. And I know my clients, when, they've had losses and I'm dealing with them, they're not looking of like, is there a quick AI tool I can punch this into? They're like, Greg, like, tell me this is going to be okay, or get me on the phone with somebody over at the carrier that's going to, and so there's that dynamic and element that absolutely is necessary. And I think while, on claims you can triage and say this one's significant, put it in that pile, there's always going to be a useful tool for it. But the real hard work, I think, is going to get done by people.
I'm taking the full dissenting view on this, guys. Sorry.
Nice.
So I'm going to go the other direction. Greg is going to start setting up this company for me momentarily. And it's going to be my AI public adjuster bot. Right. And it's not a chat bot. It's a full agentic AI. Right. So that I can make sure I get the maximum VC value out of this. And I mean, listen, guys, I have times, I think there's kind of comes in waves where I read things and I go, I'm completely terrified of the situation with AI and taking jobs. And then there's other times where I'm listening to people like you and reading more articles and seeing agentic AI do really stupid things. Like, I mean, incredibly stupid things. I broke my friend's open claw the other day. I mean, just beat him up and extracted information that I wasn't supposed to get on purpose. This is a friend, right? And
that's how Dylan treats his friends.
Yes, I socially engineer their open claw bots and reveal all their deepest secrets. Exactly. But anyway, so I go through these waves. I really don't know at this point whether I agree for the foreseeable future, or I'm not going to call it foreseeable. I'm going to call it for the near future. We're going to say within 5 years. I have a really hard time making predictions out past 5 to 10 years. We're in a world where the speed has increased. We're no longer doubling our processing capabilities, per generation of chipset. We have gone well beyond that at this point. We have quantum computing right there on the edge, where we're starting to see, and while quantum computing isn't great for everything, there's not the use case for quantum computing isn't everything that we're currently doing, but it will exist and it will do certain things much faster. And so some of what we have seen out there has been concerning enough for us to say, wow, we really need to start talking about huge policy ideas and whether UBI is about to have to be a real thing. Are we how are we going to deal with these mass layoffs if that occurs? But as we talked about at the very beginning of the show, I don't think that's what's happening right now. I think there's plenty of cycles of overhiring and companies trying to, of course, either go public or get more funding, and they're putting out new shares and they need to reduce their expenses. And there's a lot of reasons why we see layoffs and those things come and go. And I don't think I think a very small amount of that right now is AI. But I'm not saying that 10 years out that won't be the case.
Yeah.
Dylan, I got so bad I left.
I saw
Mad at your position. I left.
And
Dylan was like talking about all these amazing tech advances, and the whole time I was thinking they can't even get Wi-Fi to Connecticut, let alone.
Well, I was going to say, then I actually think we agree, because I probably wasn't clear in my response. But when I was even talking about, you need the people to supervise it, right? You need the people that know, but you don't need hundreds of them. I actually do think we are going to eventually, the lower level, if you have supervisors that can do it, but I do think it's going to roll up. And you are seeing, at least in the legal industry, very large firm, basically cut like 1,000 people, more of back office and mid office staff. But that was, and I don't think they even shied away from it, that was AI driven. They're like, we have programs that can kind of do the HR functions and stuff. I do think, again, this is more about MGAs and law firms, but I do think it will impact eventually on our end number of attorneys. I think that's almost for certain. When that will happen, I don't know. And I think the analog probably is on the insurance side as well. Whether it's more or less, I don't know. But I do think, I don't know, not everybody's going to lose their jobs, but I think there will be less. But again, I probably shouldn't make any predictions. That's just my gut.
Peter, it's time for your question. It's almost the hour.
Almost the hour, and we got to cut Greg off before he gets to 60 minutes, because then he rounds up to the hour, so that we get billed for 2 hours if we go over. So let's Peter, real fast.
Very good. Well, thanks again, Greg, for spending some time with us. We like to end every show with asking our guests what they'd like their legacy to be. Can be as grandiose as you like, personal, professional, whatever you like.
I'm an insurance attorney, so I don't know if I want you can have a legacy, but I can kind of reference to this, to having known Doug for a while and Dylan. Attorney can be expensive, helpful, but I can stand being around him. I enjoy as much the relationships, as you could probably tell. I could talk about this stuff forever. But he wasn't a super annoying dude to be around. That may be like a low bar. But,
that might be the best answer we've had so far in 27 episodes.
Yeah, I mean, you could probably fit that on a tombstone. I don't know. You want small font?
Not that annoying, and we'll do that in all caps. Yeah. No, that's it. Looked out for us, looked out for our clients, enjoyed spending time despite him charging me for it. Something along those lines. That's perfect, Greg.
Good.
That's perfect.
Oh man. Wait, I know you got to go, Greg. As always, I love chatting with you, and thank you for giving us some time. I assume you're good with people reaching out to you on LinkedIn and signing some retainer agreements. Let's get proper legal coverage here. What I like to say. But reach out with questions. You're happy to chat.
I'm definitely happy to chat. This was super fun. I think, like I said to Doug earlier, I think nobody knows everything. So just having these conversations, sometimes ridiculous or not, are good to have. And I think, I learned a lot, and hopefully people listening to this didn't hate it.
Sounds great.
Again, low bar. That's like
that's the only way I've succeeded, Doug. You have to keep it low.
And Doug, I'm gonna have to go in a second here too, because I'm joining Greg on this next call where he's gonna set up my new AI public adjuster.
Very good. Nice.
Thanks
very much, Greg.
Okay.
All right,
Greg. Have a good one, buddy.
Take care.
All right, bye. His legacy reminds me what he said. I'm an insurance attorney. That meme of sir, this is a Wendy's. It's like, what are you asking of me, Peter? He's such a good guy, and always very generous with his time. I like to make fun of the lawyer stuff, but he honestly, I reached out to him and on a whim, and he's giving me plenty of free advice. He's been there, the ups and downs. I think his comment around being more than just, it's not a transaction. A lot of these, services, professional services are not. I would have thrown my computer through the window if I had to chat with it about some of the things that he had helped us to deal with, and just handhold sometimes. So I like his thoughts on that.
He's a great guy, and he only gives free advice to Doug, just so all listeners understand. He's known Doug for a long time,
but he gives me only half good advice, and I have to pick which one is good. So it's a lot of liability there.
That was good. I liked your new segment as well, like the fast question and answer side.
It's a complete ripoff.
We should bring the regular Doug segment there. Yeah,
you should check out Caleb Presley. My kids started watching him. So this entire show is a ripoff of other more successful podcasts.
There's other podcasts.
So
okay.
we're just copying. That's all we're doing, and doing it with really boring content. All right, Dylan, do you really have to go? You got something?
No. I'm great.
I do have to go.
So you got work to do.
I'm gonna make
a
cup of tea before the next call. I mean, come on, I'm English. I have to have at least 10 cups of tea a day.
Yeah, nice cuppa. Guys, we should talk about Scout one more time and why you should go.
Why should they go? Honestly, because I've been to the event once. And I'll tell you, I think it's conferences can often feel quite soulless, but you go in there, and I think we spoke. Well, Doug, we were there, and Dylan, we were all there together. We spoke to pretty much everyone there, which is really cool. So for me, it's a size of conference where you can actually make connections, number one. And number two, I think it's full of connections that are important people in our space. So a meaningful conversation with people who actually can make a difference potentially to what you're doing, and you can make a difference to them. And I think that's amazing for a conference dynamic.
Yeah. Can I get some real world examples? Things that actually happened. True things. Yeah. Met a wonderful angel investor last year, Peter, because of you, but also because we were at that event, who's helped us really, in a good way, blow up our sales processes. Really brilliant guy. Quick shout out, Joe Cannon. Love that guy. Very nice dude. So met some customers last year. So if you're an insurtech vendor looking to work with carriers or MGAs, and you're willing to work with younger MGAs, a lot of great companies to go and pitch your wares to there. We've got some great customers out of that. And then I think if you're an investor or a carrier or an MGA, right, and you're looking for partnerships in that ecosystem, you can have a lot of great conversations. And to Peter's point, it's like nice and not small, it's not the right word, just a lot of people there, but you just have the ability to kind of chat with everyone that you want versus like 10,000 people.
Doug, to your point, if you're an investor or a capacity provider, I can't believe that you wouldn't go to this, especially on the investor side. The fact that they have curated the whole concept of this originally, and it has grown since that original thesis, was to find some really fantastic companies, highlight them, let them do these very short pitches, and have them back to back. So it's all put to one place where we can get a lot of information very quickly. And then you got the little speed dating round where you're hearing the quick pitch, and then you get to actually spend time with them and actually learn if it's something that you're interested in. If you're a VC, you're going to get as much information as you could possibly need about those companies. And this year it is massively larger as far as the number of companies being highlighted, and they're broken down into categories. So if you're want to invest in this one area, you're gonna be able to watch that category and watch 17 of just that category companies come out there and say, give them their quick pitch, and you'll know very quickly whether that's something you're interested in. They're doing a year's worth of work for you and putting it in front of that investor in just a matter of minutes. You'll within an hour or two have a year's worth of investors. Impossible companies to invest in front of you. It's really fantastic, and it's already curated for you for these companies that are successful and interesting and have made gotten through several milestones already, and it's something that they may be interested in investing in. So
and
live shows, live
shows. Yeah. I was going to say Anthropic. Let's see your AI do that, huh? So. Yeah, Scout is better than Anthropic at this. I would just like to say we're going to do 2 new segments after Scout, after the conference. One is going to be when a guest comes on the show, if they didn't go to Scout, we're going to drill them as to why.
Okay, sounds good.
We're really getting. Well, and the second segment is rapid quick fire 5 investors or carriers that didn't go to Scout. We're going to name them. We're going to out them on the show. They didn't go. These good segments or bad segments? I'm trying to, we're workshopping.
We can work them.
Well, I know that the next person that we have on this show who's an investor, Joe Zuck, is a person who has already has tickets to go to the show.
So he's going. So we don't have to really out him and make him feel bad about not going.
Exactly. That's great.
Okay. Right, gentlemen.
Okay.
All right,
guys. Have a good day. Episode. All right. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.